So we ended the previous audio video here, critiques of Kantianism and utilitarianism. There are other issues, basic ones, basic difficulties with these theories. We saw Kant and the Nazi, how the Nazis value, the Nazis' rule would seem to fit all of the requirements of the categorical imperative. What's missing, among other things, is a theory of rights, human rights. Utilitarians also are weak on rights. A science fiction author named Ursula Le Guin wrote a book called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. Omelas is a fictional place where thousands and thousands of people live wonderful, marvelous, challenging, fulfilling, and pleasurable lives, but all of their pleasure, all of that goodness depends on an innocent child being imprisoned and enslaved, kept in a small, dark, windowless prison cell for no reason. This is an exaggeration that demonstrates the point that Le Guin seems to believe in, that no amount of pleasure, no amount of good can be legitimate if it is based on a violation of human rights. The ones who walk away from Omelas are the ones who agree with her, and they leave this apparently wonderful place. Because good cannot be based on a legitimate good cannot be based on the violation of human rights. Another critique of these theories is that they're too abstract, that you can say the greatest good for the greatest number and it sounds wonderful, sounds obvious, but we saw already how difficult it is to calculate what a good is and to compare goods among each other and to compare certain goods with certain harms. Very difficult. It's also very hard to do in Kant. It seems like an ethical theory would help us address a real ethical problem in the world, that if X happens, what should I do? But Kant provides very few real examples, real-life examples. Some real-life examples are those provided in this course, and you can test whether Kantian or utilitarian theories work better for you in resolving the dilemmas that arise in each of the units of the course, or whether neither of them or both of them do. Finally, there's a critique here about what is called procedural ethics. Who decides these things? Who makes decisions that affect many people, and how are they made? A whole realm, a whole dimension of ethics has to do with who makes the decisions and how are they made. The content of ethical decisions, what is actually decided about what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, the content, those contents are a key part of ethical analysis, but who makes the decision is also, and how the decision is made, those are procedural ethics. Those are also a key part of ethical decisions, and Kant and the utilitarians are mainly silent about this issue. So those are a series of critiques. There are also many others on critiques of Kantianism Kantian ethics and utilitarian ethics. And the debate continues to this day. And here we are in this course, and we need to ask, each of us needs to ask ourselves, how about you? How about me? Is there such a thing as ethical knowledge? Go back to the question we posed on the very first day of the course. Is it possible to know the difference between right and wrong? If you think so, how do you know? Defend a position that you think is right or something that you think is good. And ask yourself, how do I know that it's right? How do I know that it's good? What kind of knowledge is ethical knowledge? We have a pretty good idea of what scientific knowledge is, how we get it, and why it's legitimate, why it's considered knowledge. We have a reasonably good idea of what mathematical or logical knowledge is like, how we obtain this knowledge, and why we think it's really knowledge. Is ethical knowledge like that, like logic, or like math, or like science? This is a debate that continues to this very day in philosophy. What is ethical knowledge? How do we know that something is right or wrong, something is good or something is evil? So we should summarize our journey through ethics quickly. Ethics began with religion, but with a new conception of religion. We saw that religion had been cosmic maintenance for 1,000,000 years, maybe more. And there were no ideas of ethics, no conception of ethics as we know it. Then came the axial age. It was a major change in the practice and in the very idea of religion. And the great religions of the world were born at this one moment in human existence from roughly 800 to 200 BCE, before the Common Era, before Christ. The great religions are born, some of them are reborn, some of them had existed, but they became completely transformed. Religion was no longer mainly, certainly not exclusively, cosmic maintenance. Religion became mainly personal transformation based on ethical behavior. You had to fulfill rites and rituals, prayers and songs and dances and other requirements. But a main part of your religious belief was based on treatment of other human beings. The Greeks then were the first, as far as we know, in the West, to separate ethics from religion, to make ethics secular. Even though Christianity dominated ethics soon after the Greeks and did so for 1,500 years or more, it may be the dominant force in ethical thinking in the world even today. Despite the Greeks' early effort and others' later efforts to separate ethics from religion, from religious doctrine or sacred texts. The Greeks and then others later believed that ethics did not, in fact, it might even be the case that ethics cannot come from religion, from faith, from sacred sources. This reminds us of the cake and ice cream argument about ethics and religion. We spend a few minutes on Kant and the utilitarians. Kant, the idealist, with his categorical imperative, and the utilitarians, empiricists, and their greatest good for the greatest number. And we finished with the question for all of us about what is ethical knowledge? How do we know good from evil and right from wrong? Think about it. Thanks. You are now ready for the hunter-gatherer exam.